The House Education Committee will come to order. Will the clerk please take attendance?
Chair Colazar.
Here.
Representatives Churches.
Present.
Shannon.
Present.
Weiss.
Here.
Glanville.
Here.
Conlon.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Wagella.
Here.
Song.
Present.
Green.
Here.
Markkinen.
Here.
Paquette. Wenzel. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 12 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Vice Chair Churches moves to approve the minutes of the December 4th meeting without objection, so ordered. Okay, a couple things as we get started here for everybody. We do have a pretty crowded agenda, so when we get to testimony after our bill sponsors present, once we get to any other stakeholder testimony, that will be limited to 3 minutes each. We also do have a hard stop of 10:25 as we have other members who do need to get to several committees. So with that, today we will start by taking up Senate Bill 463 from Senator Camilleri, but prior to welcoming the senator, Representative Glanville is going to be offering a substitute H2, and Representative Glanville, would you like to speak to your substitute?
Why, sure. Do you want me to move down in front, or?
Nope, you can do it right from there.
Great. So, first of all, I just want to thank Senator Camilleri for the work on this bill. It has been a fantastic partnership, and we brought in every stakeholder I can think of, and I hope we didn't miss anybody. If I did, you know where we are. So a lot of changes. I love the concept behind this. Of course, getting kids, as much access to college as possible. I'll let the senators speak to that. So a couple of things that we updated in this process were that we adjusted the start date of this requirement so that it aligns with the same group of students who are going to be required to do personal finance. The logic behind that is that the FAFSA is part of that curriculum, so these students would then be the best equipped to follow through with this. In addition, that gives schools a little bit of lead time to, most of them are doing FAFSA work, so this will help them, give them a little lead time to adjust that to fit these, what we're asking for in the bill. Let me see what else. We are creating a model form so that every waiver across the state will be uniform in that sense. I want to make it clear that there is no, you do not have to say, you do not have to give a reason as to why you are waiving the opportunity to complete the FAFSA. We do not want to put any family in a position, many are, for whatever reason, don't want to share information or feel like this is a bit of an overreach, those kinds of things, and that is fine. We just want to make sure that they have the information in front of them. We also have implemented an administrative waiver so that at the end of the school year, and any student who's had contact, any family that has had contact at least twice, and has still not responded to that, the school may waive them automatically. That way we are not actually keeping students from crossing the graduation platform and earning their diplomas. Although that it cannot happen more than 4 weeks before graduation, so it's really end of the year thing to help schools, get their stuff done there. And there's some reporting requirements as well. And we also updated that the information packet that will be sent out to schools can be done electronically. So I think those are the changes. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Representative Glanville makes a motion to adopt the H2 substitute on Senate Bill 463. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion of adopting the substitute, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Yes.
Song.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Markkinen.
Yes.
Paquette. Wenzel.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 13 yeas, 0 nays, 0 pass. The H2 substitute is adopted.
Thank you. And with that, Senator Camilleri, thank you for being here today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. I hope that this is not the last time I get to testify before House Education before 2027, so thank you. Looking forward to working. It's okay. We'll work on some great things together with the House Republicans. So thinking about FAFSA, this is the bill that I've been working on since 2018 as we're thinking about both Republican and Democratic states that have increased FAFSA completion requirements across the state to ensure that more students are completing this form and accessing the federal aid that is due to them. In Michigan, the number right now is about 50%. 50% of students are filling out the FAFSA form. What does that translate to? 50% who are not are often students who are actually eligible for federal financial aid, to the tune of $100 million per year in Pell Grants. This is not financial aid through student loans. This is Pell Grant money that is available to students that they are not currently accessing. As the first in my family to graduate from college, I was one of those kids who was not sure whether they could get a higher education. When I told my parents the price tag at Kalamazoo College, my folks told me that there was no way we could ever afford it. But after a conversation with the financial aid office about the FAFSA form and financial aid options that were available to me, I applied, got in, and the FAFSA opened pathways to financial aid that completely changed my life. It's safe to say that if my parents had not filled out those forms, I would not be able to have afforded Kalamazoo College, and I might not be sitting in front of you testifying today as a state senator. Broadly speaking, SB 463 would make FAFSA submission a graduation requirement for all high school students, with many opt-outs that Representative Glanville just discussed. The goal of this legislation has always been to ensure that as many students as possible are made aware of the financial aid opportunities available to them. Along the way, we've heard concerns from school groups who are worried that this bill might hold students back. Representative Glanville spoke to all of the changes that would address any of those concerns. The long goal is, as I just described, getting more students to fill out this form, getting more students to know that they have financial aid available to them, and giving them pathways to utilize that aid for whatever pathway they're choosing, four-year college, two-year community college, and trade school. Let's be very clear on that. There are trade schools that accept the FAFSA form and accept federal financial aid. I'm sure many of you may not have known that, but that is a true fact that students can have access to, including these Pell Grants that they're not getting access to because they're not filling out the form. So bottom line is this bill will allow more students to pursue a higher education. I'm urging you to support it today. I want to thank Representative Glanville so much for her hard work on this and her partnership, and thank you all for the time today.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that, because this has been through various groups that have had meetings with me about this bill, the number one concern I always hear is that students may not graduate simply because they did not fill out FAFSA. Can you once again reiterate why that should not be a concern?
So as the substitute that you just adopted will now clearly lay out, in that 4-week period prior to graduation, there is a mass opt-out available to the school administrators who will be able to just say, look, we've checked every other box for this student. Their parent has not responded to us when it comes to FAFSA. The student has not filled out the form. They've finished English, math, science, social studies, every other requirement. This is the one final checkbox that they need to check. As counselors are going through that process to confer graduation and confer degrees, this is that final box that they can check, and they can opt out the student if the parent or the student has been non-responsive. So there is no other way for a student to be held back based solely on the FAFSA form. If a student is getting held back, it is likely for other reasons due to other credits that are missing.
Thank you. Vice Chair Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so this is an interesting topic, and I thank Representative Glanville for her work to make a lot of the changes that I think were necessary. So I didn't get pushback from my own district on this. I actually got calls from inner city, Grand Rapids, Flint, Saginaw, and Detroit, and parents who know that their kids are probably not college, like that in that direction. And they believed that having this mandated was like almost discriminating against their children. It was a very strange conversation. And so I guess, how do you then address those parents that really believe that forcing their kids to fill out a form when they're probably not a high-performing academic ready for college, that it makes them feel emotionally terrible about that? How would you address the parents that ask those questions of me?
So it's a legitimate concern, and thank you for raising it. I taught at a 90% free and reduced lunch school in Detroit that primarily served Black and brown students. And in the school that I taught at, we adopted a universal FAFSA policy as a school district. And I will tell you that many of those conversations that were difficult to have, but were necessary because the students who are impacted the most by this policy that is before you today are Black and brown kids who come from low-income communities. Because we're talking about Pell Grants and the fact that so many kids are eligible for those Pell Grants, also in rural communities too, let's be clear. There's a lot of rural kids that are eligible for this type of money as well, because poverty does not know any, color or creed. Poverty is an issue that all of us face. And so when we're talking about advancing opportunities for kids, these conversations are critical. Some school districts do a great job of educating parents and educating students on FAFSA. Some don't have the resources to do so. We're working on it through the budget to provide more counselors, to provide more staff to support full implementation. We passed a $10 million grant on FAFSA completion to assist schools as they're having these discussions. And so I think the point is we're not talking about it enough and going deep with parents and families about why this form is so critical. Because yes, maybe not every kid wants to go to college or can go to college. That's okay. But there are community college opportunities and trade school opportunities that are available to these students too.
Representative Glanville.
I do have a question, but I just want a quick follow-up. I want to point out as well that, there is a parental waiver. And if for any reason the parent feels, like I said, that this is not an appropriate avenue for their child, they can sign that parental waiver, and that qualifies as having completed this requirement. So there is an opportunity for parents to have those conversations with, counselors, or if you're talking about students who have cognitive disabilities, as you mentioned, certainly there's an avenue for that. But I just wanted to clarify, can you speak, Senator, to, I know you talked about the federal money that's available, but I believe also our state Michigan Achievement Scholarship, the Community College Guarantee, and other programs are what we would call last dollar, and so they are tied to having completed the FAFSA, so students cannot take advantage also of state-level money. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the recently passed policies around the Michigan Achievement Scholarship and Community College Guarantee, those are programs that kick in after federal dollars have been exhausted. And so if you're concerned from a state budgeting perspective, for those of us who think about dollars and how to make everything work in the higher ed and school aid budgets, we want to draw down as much federal money as we can before we spend our state resources. So the best way to do that is to ensure that every Pell Grant is taken advantage of, because in most cases, Pell Grants cover the cost of community college. And so we want to ensure that we're utilizing that first. And then in the event that those students are not eligible for Pell Grants, we kick in the resources from the Michigan Achievement Scholarship or the Community College Guarantee.
Any other questions? Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple questions. Did you say we're spending $10 million on helping fill out the form?
We are supporting $10 million of grants through MyLeap to go back to school districts to support their FAFSA completion efforts, yes.
Versus putting it back into aid.
This goes to the school districts.
To fill out the form, not actual aid for
This
school.
goes directly to the school districts to support their efforts to support students as they're filling out
Filling
FAFSA.
that out. What trade schools look at FAFSA? Can you
So
mention
one thing that I think I was surprised by is, so there's a complete list. Michigan College Access Network actually may have a better handle on all of them, but the couple of schools that really stood out to me were actually barbershop and cosmetology schools are eligible for FAFSA. And so you can fill, it depends on which one you're attending, but those stood out to me as being a brand new resource that I did not know about. And so that's something that I think is important for students who choose that pathway.
Thank you. And then just one last one. Is there any effort to make it simpler? It's very lengthy, very complicated. I remember filling it out for my daughter, and I thought, well, what kind of a degree do you need to do this thing? And a lot of the questions are ambiguous.
Yep. So under the Biden administration and Secretary Cardona, they have closed the questions down to about 15. 15 questions, I believe, is the new standard under the federal form. So we don't have any influence over how they, shape that form itself. But they have heard feedback, and it's been clunky. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's not been the easiest or smoothest process this year. But they have shortened it, and it should be a much simpler process going forward.
So referring to those grants from MyLeap, we're funding the mandate.
Yes. Yes,
Wonderful.
We have put in money. For anybody who says otherwise, there is money in the budget to support the implementation of this policy.
Thank you. Any final questions? I think we are good. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it. Okay, now we have cards and we do have some people wishing to speak. Again, a very polite reminder, please keep your comments to 3 minutes when you are up here. So first up, wishing to speak supporting the bill, it's Carrie Ward from Fostering Success, Michigan. All right, Ms. Ward, the floor is yours. The button, please.
Thank you. Do I keep it held? Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. New here. My name is Carrie Ward, and I am Director of Fostering Success Michigan, and I'm here to support Senate Bill 463. Fostering Success Michigan is a statewide initiative focused on college access and success for youth with experience in foster care. We also serve students with experience in homelessness and refugee status. In my role, I support the 30 campuses across the state that have on-site supports for students with experience in foster care. So let's start with data and statistics. In Michigan, our graduation rate for students who have experienced the foster care system is 40% in 4 years, compared to 80% of the general population. Additionally, although 80% of our students say that they want to attend college, only about 20% get there, and 3 to 11% persist with a degree without support. So that's without those supportive campus-based support programs that I mentioned before. What we hear from students: no one ever really talked to me about college. I don't think that financial aid exists, so I don't think I can pay for college. I didn't think that college was for me. And when I say college too, it means any sort of post-secondary degree credential, right? We believe the universal FAFSA policy will increase the knowledge and resources available to the students with experience in foster care. This includes financial resources that legislators have approved to finance college for these students or post-secondary education. We believe that it will increase access to campuses with on-site support, and we believe that our students will be more prepared for the transition for college upon the passage of this legislation. What I'd like you to consider for a moment is what it would be like to be a senior in high school who is in foster care, and how tough that would be. When a young person is removed from their home, the state essentially takes custody of them, and decisions are made on behalf of the young person by a variety of agencies, programs, and professionals. Think about how empowering it would be to sit down with your high school counselor to fill out the FAFSA. It moves a theoretical conversation about college, such as what are you going to do after high school, to an actual action step that involves solid goals for the future. It provides an opportunity to fully consider their educational options, to be empowered to make decisions about their future with guidance and assistance. This is often one of the first times that our young people get to consider this. Additionally, I want to mention that Fostering Success Michigan, my initiative, stands at the ready to partner with school counselors and educators locally to provide resources and support for students with experience in foster care.
And that is the 3-minute limit.
Got it.
Sorry.
Thank you.
No, I appreciate it. Any questions for Ms. Ward? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, representing, wishing to speak and supporting the bill. We have, I'm having trouble reading the writing. I'm sorry. Ryan, is it Fewens Bliss? Did I say that right? Wonderful. From MCAN and Michigan College Access Network. Again, I ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. Whoop.
Good morning. I won't be charged for that, right? I have some expanded remarks that I've handed out to you in your folders today, as well as some data and information about this issue. Ryan Fewens Bliss, Executive Director at Michigan College Access Network. We're supporting this bill. When understanding how best to help kids, the research is pretty clear and consistent over time. It won't surprise you, but it's basically boils down to caring adults providing good advice and support to kids. Schools are uniquely positioned to be, and in fact already are, serving as caring adults, providing good advice to kids. This is why we know the best way to increase FAFSA completion and get more students to college, to produce more talent for employers is to connect FAFSA submission to the place that has the most trained, caring adults supporting students, which is their high schools. This is not a new or experimental policy. 15 states have implemented universal FAFSA very successfully by law or policy because it works. Students deserve choice about their futures. And when I talk about choice, I'm not meaning the choice between MSU and U of M. The FAFSA, as you heard, unlocks 160 of Michigan's universities, colleges, community colleges, tribal colleges, skilled trade programs. Rep. Johnson, I just emailed you a full list of those, so you have that. So it helps folks who are not interested in a four-year degree as well as those who are interested in a four-year degree. Those programs can still be quite expensive. For students to take advantage of our new community college guarantee, allowing them free community college, tuition and fees at their local district, they must complete the FAFSA. These are the choices that we are asking students to make and empowering them to make. College versus no college, certificate versus degree, 2-year versus 4-year, public versus private. I know you've probably heard some concerns about the legislation. Maybe some of you have them. One of those concerns that I've heard is that we shouldn't be forcing all students to do college-going activities if they already have decided they don't want to attend college. That concern hides our actual problem, which is not that we're forcing students to complete the FAFSA who have no intention of going to college. It's that we allow students not to complete the FAFSA who have no belief that they ever could have gotten to college in the first place. This isn't an example of forcing students to do something they've already made an active decision not to do. It's supporting students to do something that they've ruled out as not within their reach before they even have the decision to make. So if I can, I want to end very quickly with one of our AmeriCorps stories who helped students complete the FAFSA. Promise it'll be quick. This is their voice. I had a student earlier this year who was adamant that she would not qualify for federal aid and that there was no point in doing FAFSA or completing college applications since she did not want to go into debt and she knew her parents would not help her. She believed her parents made too much money, very hesitant. She avoided the completion coach, the advisor in the halls. She wouldn't come down when she was requested to come to her office. She despised conversations regarding the topic. I wanted to help, but there was only so much I could do. I told her that she did not feel comfortable and did not want to speak on this matter further. It's okay.
I'm sorry, you went over. I'm sorry. I have to treat everybody equally.
That's great. The end of the story is she went to college. She got money from FAFSA.
Which we love, and we're glad to hear that.
Thanks for your time.
Yep, thank you for your testimony. Next up, we have 2 representatives from the Michigan Education Justice Coalition. We have Ashley Alvarado and Samantha Magdaleno. And they are wishing to speak opposing the bill.
Hi, my name is Samantha Magdaleno, and I'm with One Michigan for Immigrant Rights. Sorry about that. And I'm the executive director. And today I'm here opposing Bill 463. And some things I would like to point out is, first, I wouldn't be here today without FAFSA. I love FAFSA. I got my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and I'm a current law student at Michigan State University. So FAFSA has done great things for me. But I also work in Southwest Detroit, and I work with a lot of youth that this would negatively impact. And a statistic that I would like to point out is that approximately 30% of students who complete the FAFSA each year are selected for a verification process. So this includes a process that verifies information, and 5 to more than 6 million students a year can actually not access their financial aid unless they go through this process. And this process is over 5.4 million students spend hours combing through documents and even meeting with IRS in person to verify what the FAFSA says. And for low-income students, the chance of being flagged for verification is even higher. So again, this is putting an undue burden on our undocumented students, on our low-income students. And it's also important to point out that both Louisiana and New Hampshire have previously required the FAFSA, and now in 2024 to 2025, they're repealing this act. So yes, we have a lot of states that have jumped on board, but they're also going back and saying that this is not working for their state. So I think it's very important for us to mirror acts that do not require the FAFSA, and we need to think about providing other opportunities to incentivize college that do not harm our students. I know a lot of people say that there is an opt-out policy, but it's really important to understand how fearful communities are and how fearful students are. So I'm going to share a story with you. This past summer, I had a 15-year-old call me in tears. Her mother passed out and she couldn't move. I instinctively told her, call 911, right? Her instant reply is, will they deport her? Sam, I don't know what to do. This is the fear that our students have. So even something that they're saying, oh, well, if they don't verify, then we're gonna bypass this requirement and it's an easy process. But if you have somebody that's contacting you, you're instantly inferring anxiety and fears into these families' households. And this is unnecessary. These students should be celebrating that they're passing the 12th grade and celebrating that they actually earned this degree, not having anxiety come along with it, which would be one of their biggest celebrations in their lives. And I will hand over to Ashley.
Hi, my name is Ashley Alvarado. I am with One Michigan for Immigrant Rights. I am currently a freshman at MSU, and I had to apply myself for FAFSA last year. The whole FAFSA process was very difficult, even for one of my friends, Margaret, who was supposed to be my roommate. We had everything planned, but unfortunately, FAFSA wasn't easy for her. And she has undocumented parents, and she couldn't get into college because of this whole FAFSA thing. I applied late myself to Michigan State because FAFSA, it's a long process, and I fell behind. I also want to say that filling out FAFSA for me was very difficult. I myself have undocumented parents, and filling that out wasn't, something that they wanted to do. I received help from my school counselor and outside counselor and my mentor, who is here with me today, to try to convince them, to fill it out. For many of my friends, it was very difficult filling it out, and just the thought of going forward, having to be mandatory. I know many of family members and relatives and friends, they would probably just decide to drop out, knowing that this process is going to be very difficult, and that is something I do not wish.
I'm
because
sorry, Ms. Alvarado, I got to stop you, but I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about your opposition to the bill?
You can continue.
Okay. What do I say? It's very difficult. It was very difficult for myself. And I know that, I have family, friends, and I know that process for them will be difficult as well. For them and for myself, going forward, I don't think that's a good idea. I think that should not be, a thing.
Thank you. And by the way, to both of you, congratulations on all your success. It's really good to hear that you're thriving. We do have a question from Vice Chair Green.
Thank you for your testimony. It was very brave of you to come up, because from what I just want to make sure I'm understanding this, is you are fearful that if you fill out this form, your undocumented parents could potentially be deported.
Correct.
I just want to be clear on that. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Glanville.
If I can just respond to that a minute too. I just want to point out, we are not requiring people to fill out the form. We are requiring them either to, they have an option here. They can do the application process, or their parent can sign a waiver that goes only to the school, not the federal government, saying they got the information and they're not interested in participating. So, that's where I think there's been some maybe misunderstanding, is that this is not forcing anybody to, and it can be anybody who just does not want to participate in that process with the federal government. All they have to do is let the school know that they are aware of the FAFSA and they decline to participate.
Thank you. Representative Wagella.
Please respond.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, thank you. I'd just like to point out that Dreamers are most vulnerable right now, and Dreamers are defined as undocumented students that have been here and gone to school. And recently, elect President Trump has come out that he wants to provide a solution for these Dreamers, but there is no solution currently that is in place. So even a simple waiver that we're signing that's only going to the school, we don't know who's going to see that. And we don't know what kind of anxiety that's going to bear on these parents. Again, this child called me while her parent could have been dying, was unresponsive, and called me because she didn't want to call emergency. So if she didn't feel safe to call emergency, that's supposed to help us, that is supposed to save us, how are they going to feel comfortable with school administrations that they don't know?
Okay, Representative Wagella.
First, thanks for being here today. So the bill allows for 18-year-olds to opt out, but not 17-year-olds to opt themselves out. It's something that I was hoping to get in the bill. But that being said, would you feel more comfortable with the bill if the student could opt themselves out from filling it out?
Actually, no. Working with students right now, they're very highly anxiety ridden after COVID. I work with students. I've run a summer youth program for 10 years, and these past students, they have anxiety to talk to anybody. I barely can get them to talk to their counselors, the ones that do have papers, and to heighten that by 20% of those who do not have papers to get them to talk to somebody.
Okay, Representative Shannon.
My question was very similar to Representative Wagella's.
Anyone else? Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next up on Zoom, we have wishing to speak and supporting the bill. My apologies in advance if I do not pronounce your name correctly. It is Angela Odenkel.
Hi there.
Did I say your name right? And if not, I do apologize.
No, all good. Definitely understand. No, my name is Angela O'Donnell. Hello, Chairman Colazar and the members of the House Education Committee. My name is Angela O'Donnell. I'm the Senior Director of Policy and Advocacy for Michigan for the Institute of College Access and Success, also known as TICAS. We are a nonpartisan higher ed policy organization grounded in research. We center the needs of students and families, anchoring their lived experiences and solution-oriented uplifts and recommendations for state and federal policy. Personally, born, raised, and educated in the city of Detroit in poverty, I have a skilled trade background as well as an academia background. And while I excelled at both, it was not absent of unnecessary hardships, which is why I do this work and why I support Senate Bill 463. I had this whole speech, but I actually want to address some of the things that have been uplifted that are not necessarily accurate. I have 10 years of experience in financial aid. That's where I actually started my education career. The verification process is after a FAFSA is completed. So a student who does not complete it, quote unquote, an undocumented student who cannot complete a FAFSA will not be pulled for verification. Verification is verifying what the family put in the application itself. So just wanted to highlight that. It's just verifying what they put in the application, no other information beyond that. And I say this as someone who verified thousands of applications. I also supported thousands of families directly myself in completing the FAFSA, working in or around college access and things of that nature. So just want to highlight why this is important to me. It's because a lot of families are not getting the information and making decisions informed. They are making decisions that are not informed. They're making decisions with limited to no information. The number of families that I heard that there is no money for me, this is not an opportunity for me, is like it's crazy in the fact that there is a lot of resources that not only available from the federal government, but that you guys are making available as well. I really commend the student in uplifting their respective story because I really anchor on student experiences. That is the body of what I do from a work experience. But it being difficult, this is why this bill is being in place so that those students and families get support who actually want to move forward. So this bill is not a requirement to complete the application. It's a requirement for access to information and support for those who want to move forward. Anyone who does not want to move forward, again, no reason opt out. They don't have to explain it. They don't have to put any information. They sign their name. That is the end of it. So the other side of that is those who do want to move forward, like the young lady who is in college, who needs that support in understanding what some of those questions are. This is giving them information and positioning those professionals to actually help them. I hope that this information is helpful because this is not to be harmful to students. It's the only reason why I support it and why we made sure that those support things were put in the bill, like a special circumstance waiver, like the education before the senior year, so that we can change this negative connotation of what this is when it's really creating resources for students and families that did not know resources were available to them. We're leaving hundreds of millions of dollars on the table between Pell Grant and state aid on the table. That's free money, not student loan money that is being left on the table. And students are then pursuing these opportunities, working these ridiculous amount of hours, not accessing the money that's available to them. So just wanted to highlight that. I know that there's a short in time. We have a longer statement that has been
And we
provided
actually
to
hit
you
the
guys as
time.
well.
I'm sorry, that was the time.
Yeah.
Any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for your testimony. Okay, next up, wishing to speak opposing the bill, Chris Casper, also on Zoom from the Michigan School Counselor Association.
Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes, we
thank
can.
you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name again is Christopher Casper, and I'm a high school counselor at Pioneer High School in Ann Arbor and a former first-generation college graduate. I want to give a resounding thank you to Chair Colazar and the members of this committee for allowing me a few moments to testify to you this morning. We appreciate the work of the bill sponsor and other education stakeholders for listening to our concerns and addressing some of the administrative burden that will be placed on school counselors and other school staff. Unfortunately, MISCA, the Michigan School Counselors Association, still has considerable concern for this policy. Therefore, today, we voice our opposition to Senate Bill 463. FAFSA is not a silver bullet for students obtaining post-secondary achievement. It would, however, be the only non-academic Michigan merit graduation requirement and create a large burden on already overburdened counselors and staff. If the objective is to make college more accessible, this bill misses the mark by solely focusing on FAFSA completion. While it is an essential component of college access, we would be de-emphasizing the importance of exploring all post-secondary options. For students not planning on pursuing college, a FAFSA mandate or obtaining a waiver is an unnecessary burden on the students and their families. Requiring school counselors to help all students submit a FAFSA, regardless of whether they plan to go to college or obtain a waiver, takes precious time that could be better spent on the individual needs of all students. We are also concerned that this bill does not acknowledge that our students are diverse with unique backgrounds, skills, and interests. This bill lacks recognition of the wide array of options students have to seek out high-demand, high-paying careers. A school counselor is the person best suited to help students consider all of their post-secondary options and lead them through the next steps, whether it's FAFSA completion to those who are going to college, applying for apprenticeships, or other on-the-job training programs, or looking into their options with the military. Making FAFSA completion a graduation requirement actively works against the message that it's acceptable to go right into the workforce or to pursue a trade. Thank you for your time and consideration of our concerns with SB 463. We encourage you to oppose this bill and would be interested in working with you to develop alternative methods to shift the culture around the FAFSA completion. Please do not hesitate to reach out to MISCA at any time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Next up, wishing to speak opposing the bill, Eleanor Jordan from Michigan Immigrant Rights Center. And again, I please ask that you keep to 3 minutes.
Thanks so much, and thanks to my colleagues at One Michigan. I don't have to say much because there's hardly anything to add. I really appreciate their testimony, and I think they hit the nail on the head. Michigan Immigrant Rights Center is a statewide center for low-income immigrants, and we serve families with various forms of immigration status, including many unaccompanied children. So I have the honor, along with my colleagues, of serving children who are navigating the system either with mixed status families or with unstable immigration status. And after a long time working in this field, I can tell you that now more than ever, this bill, unfortunately, even after the much appreciated negotiation and work that we've done with those who support the bill fails to account for the complexities that immigrant students face at this time. Given the incoming federal administration's threats of mass deportation and ends to protections like DACA, many immigrant families are understandably fearful, really terrified is the word. And the fear in immigrant communities is so palpable among our client communities that sharing personal information with the federal government or even your counselor, even that one call, the fear in immigrant communities is so palpable that we know that high schoolers who are forced to choose between submitting the FAFSA or graduating, we are very confident that many will have to choose to give up their dream of graduation. We especially want to point, the only additional fact I want to point out is during the 2023 FAFSA rollout online, there were significant glitches that actually really impacted immigrant students and their families, particularly those whose parents lacked Social Security numbers. People were in deep fear over the submission and really prevented from even pursuing the process for some time. School personnel who don't get the chance to have proper training on how immigration status affects students in their college applications could inadvertently ask inappropriate questions, further heightening fears and risks of bias. In particular, students shouldn't even be asked to disclose that they're not eligible for financial aid, as this could be used as a proxy for immigration status. We really appreciate the efforts that lawmakers have made to make improvements to the bill, but we remain opposed. We would rather see state legislators invest in efforts like crafting a much-needed in-state tuition policy and extending state college aid to undocumented students. We cannot in good conscience deprive immigrant students of the diploma that they have earned simply because they want to keep their families safe. So we urge lawmakers to vote no.
Thank you. Any question? Representative Glanville.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I have worked with immigrant and refugee communities quite a bit over the course of my career, and I am certainly sympathetic to the cause. But I do want to just reiterate that I understand that fear, and I hope people can hear through that for just a minute. That nobody has to have a conversation with their school counselor. Nobody has to fill out a college application. We are asking schools to make sure that parents and students have access to the information on the FAFSA about filling out the FAFSA. And if they choose not to do that, they can sign a waiver. And if they are not comfortable signing a local waiver at their school, a school where the student is currently enrolled, so already knows the family, they don't have to even respond, and the school can just mark them at the end of the year as an administrative waiver. So this is really, honestly, this is not a gotcha for anybody. It's not putting anybody on a list. It is literally checking a box to say these families got this information. We delivered this information to these families, full stop. And whether they decided to participate in it or not is fine. We are not holding students back from graduation. There's no need for them to drop out. And I understand that the fear is hard to listen through. I truly understand that. And I'm asking, I know it's a big ask, but that's the situation we're in. And at the end of the day, this bill will open doors for thousands of students. And so I just want to reiterate that part of it.
I'm really grateful for your position, Representative, and I know you have worked on this. I appreciate it gratefully, and I know Merck does too. We have worked with our clients, and we've held the hands of people who are too fearful. And over and over again, we have seen that a simple contact from the local school, a simple just hearing that this is something that they need to opt out of, or that this is a thing, could prevent people from participating. And at this moment, while we've been talking about this, the world has changed for our clients. And we can't change our position, unfortunately, even though we genuinely appreciate the sentiment.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Okay, some other cards. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Katie Witkowski from Michigan Community College Association. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Justin Clement from Project Lead the Way. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Robert Lefevre from Michigan Independent Colleges and Universities. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Bob Kefchin, Michigan Association of Secondary School Principals. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Daniel Hurley from Michigan Association of State Universities. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Adam Majestic from the Detroit Regional Chamber. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Jeff Cobb from Ed Trust Midwest. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Rob Mass from MyLeap. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Dwayne Gill from Detroit, from GCSI Detroit Public Schools Community District. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Ben Locke, Teach Plus Michigan. Not wishing to speak, neutral on the bill, Brenda Pilgrim from MASB. And not wishing to speak, opposing the bill, Dr. Cheryl Kennedy from the Michigan Department of Education. Representative Conlon makes a motion to report Senate Bill 463 as substituted with recommendation. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches. Yes. Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Pass.
Song.
Yes.
Green.
No.
Markkinen.
No.
Paquette. Wenzel.
No.
Johnson.
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas, 4 nays, 1 pass. Senate Bill 463 is reported for recommendation as substituted.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we will be taking up testimony from House Bill 6255 from Representative Weiss. Representative Weiss, if you want to come around. And again, we'll try to make this one fast, as I know we still have another bill following as well.
right. Ready for me? All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chair Kolazar, for the opportunity to testify today on this important matter. I often talk in this committee and elsewhere about my experience teaching, and that experience deeply informs all decisions that I make on education policy. I have seen personally the impact of what we do here at the classroom level, as I know, as I'm looking around this committee, many of you have in your previous lives. And so when I see something that needs to be addressed to help improve outcomes for kids, I know that I'm obligated to act. There are many issues that we have addressed this term, which I am incredibly proud of, and yet there are many more actions that we need to take to improve education policy across the state. The Detroit Public School System, now known as the Detroit Public Schools Community District, has been negatively impacted in a unique way, I would argue, more than any other district in the state by various past misguided state policies. Despite this, many recent improvements have been made in the district, and while there is so much more that needs to be done, there may unfortunately be an unforeseen obstacle standing in the way of progress due to an interpretation of a state law passed back in 2016. This bill seeks to clarify that statute to keep DPSCD on progress to repaying their debt while more quickly accelerating their ability to levy dollars to pay for critically needed facility improvements. This bill amends Section 12B of the Revised School Code to add language that the community district should be notified when the debt of the qualifying district is retired. It also modifies the definition of operating obligation by adding loans incurred from the school loan revolving fund. When DPSCD was created under Section 12B of the Revised School Code, the original Detroit Public School District was saddled with the debt of the district, and everything else dealing with the education of students was transferred over to DPSCD. Since that time, the school taxes levied in Detroit have gone to paying down that debt, and DPSCD has been operating on funds from the state. With the potential early repayment of the operating portion of this debt, there is some confusion around if the state is required to continue to pay in general fund dollars to cover DPSCD's operating mills, or if that now shifts over to DPSCD. Because of this confusion, this bill seeks to simply clarify what debt qualifies as operating obligation by adding the school loan revolving fund. Without that early retirement, as DPSCD intended, the existing loans will generate hundreds of millions in additional interest, which will be borne by the taxpayers. It also further delays the district's ability to get new loans to further improve the infrastructure and services for its students. It is, again, critically important to note that DPSCD is unable to levy additional tax dollars at this time to cover facility costs as other districts in the state can do because of the structure of Section 12B, which this bill seeks to amend. If this change is not made, DPSCD will be unable to generate additional dollars for facilities until likely the year 2040. This bill would accelerate that timeline to as early as 2030. Please know that these crumbling facilities are often not only unconducive to learning, but are often unsafe. I myself have taught in several facilities that have been infested with rats, roaches, lacked basic modernized HVAC services, mold, crumbling roofs, and so much more that I won't get into today. The district has taken a lot of steps to improve the massive facility needs, but without this fix, we will slow down this imperative progress. And if we don't fix it, unfortunately, it is the children of Detroit who will suffer. I really appreciate the opportunity to testify here today. I also know that the DPSCD CFO, Jeremy Vedito, is here to testify as well on some of the technical aspects of the bill. And so, Chair, I leave to your discretion if you want me to take questions now or have him testify and us take questions together.
We can have him testify and you can take questions together.
Thank you.
Is he on Zoom?
I believe he is on Zoom, yes. And hopefully I'm not responsible for making that work. Yes, he is.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And again, just a polite reminder that we have to limit testimony to 3 minutes due to time constraints.
Yes. Thank you for having us today, and thank you for considering the bill. As Representative Weiss said, this bill seeks to clarify the language that was already approved in 2016 by the state, and under Section 12B currently commits the state to for DPS repaying all debt which includes the operating millage, debt through the 18 mills, the emergency loans, which are being repaid within the next year, but then also the school loan revolving debt and the capital debt, so approximately 1.7 billion. This law clarifies that language and ensures that the operating millage will only repay the SLURF debt, which will be completed by as early as 2030, potentially 2031, depending on property growth. And that leaves the capital debt, the remaining capital bonds, to be repaid by the 13 mills. This will allow the district, as Representative Weiss stated, to access the capital market and to ensure that Detroiters are not double taxed through by addressing and needing to address the facility issues. Additionally, this will clarify the positions for both DPS and DPSCD and continue to build on the success that DPSCD has been able to maintain over the last 7 years in this new structure. Again, as I said, this clarifies like sections 12B in the law, as well as sections 1211, which requires DPSCD to continue to levy the operating millage until all debt is resatisfied, at which point DPS will cease to exist. And so we will clarify that. So DPS will levy the operating millage only to repay the SLURF, the school loan revolving debt, and then the operating millage will revert back to DPSCD. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any questions from committee members? Okay. All right. Thank you for your testimony. Okay, now we do first have an H1 substitute that Representative Weiss makes a motion to adopt. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion of adopting the substitute, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches. Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yep.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yeah.
Wagella.
Yes.
Song.
Yes.
Green.
No.
Markkinen.
No.
Paquette. Wenzel.
No.
Johnson.
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 9 yeas, 4 nays, 0 pass. The H1 substitute is adopted.
Thank you. And Representative, oh, actually, we do have some cards before we get to that. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Mike Latvis, Wayne Risa. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Molly Sweeney and Imani Foster from 482 Forward. And not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Todd Tennis from AFT Michigan. Representative Edwards makes a motion to report House Bill 6255 with recommendation. Will the clerk please call the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Yes.
Song.
Yes.
Green.
No.
Markkinen.
No.
Paquette. Wenzel.
No.
Johnson.
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 9 yeas, 4 nays, 0 passes. HB 6255 is reported for recommendation as substituted.
Thank you, and we will go at ease. Okay, we will be coming back to order. Senator Polhanke, I'm going to have you take the chair right away to make sure we get through everything. I know you're still in a jacket. I apologize for rushing you. We just do have a hard stop in 22 minutes. So with that, I'm going to welcome up Senator Polhanke, who will be testifying to Senate Bill 285.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Today I rise in support of my bill, Senate Bill 285, that makes kindergarten required for Michigan's 5-year-old kids. If we're serious about setting kids up for a lifetime of success, early education's where it's at. As Governor Whitmer and our caucus in the legislature push forward with our goal to make preschool universal for all 4-year-olds here in Michigan, it doesn't make sense that kindergarten continues to be optional. We must strive to create a culture and expectation here in our state that kids' formal education should begin early. And we're giving parents a variety of choices to accomplish this. My bill gives parents the option for their kids to attend kindergarten in public, charter, private, parochial, or homeschool for a half day or a full day. And if a parent feels strongly their kid is not ready, there is an opt-out provision. Again, the goal of this legislation is to create a culture in which early education is valued and viewed as the indispensable building block it is, and my bill does that. And I will field any questions that you might have.
Any questions from members? Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for your shared concern about our students. I'm trying to make sense of our high school rates of reading at grade level are so low, and now we're focused on kindergarten. Do you have a comment that goes in line with that? Because I would assume the focus should really be on graduating seniors that can read at grade level versus the kindergarten. Your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's an and or. I think we can do all of it. I do think kindergarten is very important. If a child is going to enter preschool at 4 and then 5, they go to young 5s or whatever, at the age of 6, to have them skip a year, which is pretty unique to Michigan. I don't have the exact number of states in which kindergarten's optional. We're one of them. It just doesn't make sense. I think you're going to hear from the superintendent of our state's largest school district about how skipping kindergarten hurts the academic achievement of his kids. And if the kids can have this foundation for success by attending kindergarten, preschool, all the way through, when they solidify their reading skills, I think it's going to help them when they reach high school. I taught 11th and 12th graders for 20 years, so I know, I understand your concern. I think we can do it all, and I think that this is a nice building block in making that happen when they get to high school.
Okay, thank you. Again, I have 2 more members that wish to ask questions. Please make sure we make those questions brief. Representative Wagella.
Hi. First, thank you for this bill. I think this is one of the most important things we can do. I think just kind of wanted to hear a little bit more on the benefits of early childhood education and the long-term success of students. I believe, the statistics show that kids who go to preschool and kindergarten have much greater avenues of academic success throughout high school and middle school and even post-secondary.
Well, as an educator, you know this, Rep. Wegela. I think you said you said it all. The early years are the foundation, like I said, the building blocks for kids, and a big determiner about how successful they're going to be into the upper elementary, middle school, and high school grades. So if they can master their reading skills, their math skills, their critical thinking skills by attending kindergarten and not skipping a whole year of academic achievement at the age of 5 and 6, we just want to create a culture where parents and everybody in Michigan knows your kid's going to go to kindergarten here.
Thank you. Representative Green.
Thank you. How many students enter first grade in public school that did not go to kindergarten?
You know, I don't know. I don't know as a statewide. One thing it's hard to do to count the kids that are in public schools. Some private schools you can count them, but there's other kids that we're not exactly sure. We assume they're being educated, but Dr. Vitti is going to have a great example of the drop off in academic achievement that occurs between preschool and kids who don't attend kindergarten and then into first grade. So I think, and he's the state's largest school district, but I don't have that.
So we don't have the numbers that justify the reason for this piece of legislation.
Oh.
I think the department will when they come up.
Okay, so Dr. Kennedy from the department can answer that. I just want to alert everyone, there is nothing in my why for this bill. It's about a homeschool registry. That is, if we wanted to do a homeschool registry, I'm the chair of the education department, I'm the chairwoman of the majority caucus, we would have done it. Nothing in my why. My big why is about counting homeschool kids.
Thank you. Representative Song.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I just want to say how grateful I am for this bill as a mother with 4 young children. This has impacted me greatly, and thankfully my school district has allowed for my children to be able to go to kindergarten, and I've seen how impactful that has been throughout their early years and beyond. My question it talks a little bit about homeschooling too, and how this would impact children who are homeschooled. I've had constituents bring it up and how concerned they are if they do want to continue to homeschool their kids. How would that impact
Absolutely,
them?
they can homeschool them during that when they're the 5 years old. They're, under current Michigan law, we do not have a homeschool registry in Michigan. I am not here to make one. The state does have compulsory attendance law, which requires that all children attend a public school from the age of 6 until 18. However, in that law, there are exceptions which allow kids to attend non-public school or to be homeschooled. This bill does not infringe upon the rights of any parents who wish to homeschool their child,
Thank you,
but
Chair.
simply extends it to the age of 5, not 6.
Okay. Representative Churches. Okay. Oh, sorry, Representative Glanville.
Sorry, real quick. I just want to clarify. So kids are going to preschool, and then they're going to maybe another preschool, and then they're going to first grade. And what this, in some cases, what this law proposes is they go to preschool, they go to kindergarten, they go to first grade. So they're getting that academic foundation in school at kindergarten. Is that kind of how this is playing out?
Yeah, I was a secondary teacher, and frankly, the young kids with the young 5s and the preschool, that confuses me. So, I believe that our goal is to get kids in preschool at age 4, and then most of them will enter kindergarten at the age 6. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But then the 5-year-olds is the ones that we want to make sure are getting some education somehow.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So we're talking about 4-year-olds, we're talking about 6-year-olds, but we haven't talked about 5-year-olds. So this just fills in that gap.
5-year-old gap.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, next up we have Dr. Vitti, who wishing to speak supporting the bill for Detroit schools. He is on Zoom. And Dr. Vitti, I'm again going to ask you to please adhere to the 3 minutes as we are in crunch time here.
No problem. Good morning. Thank you for letting me speak, and thank you to Senator Pohanke for sponsoring and bringing forth this bill. As was noted, we do support this. We have been advocating for this. This is a good example in DPSED of our reform, which balances more support with accountability. I don't think you can reform K-12 education without a balance of accountability and support. This is an example of accountability. In DPSED, you all know the concentration of poverty that we try to overcome in supporting our students. Before I started as superintendent, 70% of our students, K-12, were considered chronically absent, meaning they missed 18 or more days. We dropped that, but because of the pandemic, that increased to as high as 76%. Most recently, we got it down to 65% this most recent year. When looking at a grade level chronic absenteeism, our highest grade level facing chronic absenteeism is kindergarten at 73%. And this policy change needs to happen to set the right expectations right away for not only our parents in Detroit, but our parents throughout Michigan. It's really hard to talk about education and attendance matter when the state law doesn't require mandatory attendance. The impact of chronic absenteeism is severe throughout Michigan, throughout the country, but in DPSCD in particular, if our students miss 18 or fewer days, meaning they're not chronically absent, they're 3 to 5 times more likely to be at and above grade level on the M-STEP and to be college ready based on the PSAT, SAT. I'll say that again. If DPSCD students miss 18 or fewer days, they're 3 to 5 times more likely to be at grade level on the M-STEP or college ready on the PSAT, SAT. We all know attendance matters. We know our students can't be chronically absent. But in DPSCD, what we're seeing is not only are students doing better if they're in school more recently, but over the last 2 years, DPSCD has shown more improvement in that and grade level performance on the M-STEP and on the SAT than the state average, meaning we have shown more improvement in at and above grade level performance on the M-STEP and the SAT than the state average. That's because we're doing things better and differently in our classrooms, and we need our students here. This law creates the right expectations early on, so we can set the right expectations for our students and our parents so they are not chronically absent, which means that we will accelerate student achievement. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vitti. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Next up, wishing to speak opposing the bill, Mike Winter from Michigan Christian Homeschool Network.
Thank you, Representative Colzar. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak here today. And I met you when you first became chair, and you've been a man of integrity. You've been faithful to everything you told me about homeschooling. I want to thank you for that. I'm also thankful for Representative Green and Johnson, who've been very good partners of Mission. My name is Mike Winter. I am the president of Mission, the Michigan Christian Homeschool Network, the largest homeschool advocacy organization in Michigan. And we've been serving Michigan homeschool families for 40 years, and I'm here to oppose SB 285. But the last 4 decades, Mission has been working to defend homeschool freedoms, and a parent's right to choose is what is best for our children. It's our fundamental belief that parents should be able to make the choices they believe to be in the best educational interest of each child. This bill removes that choice from parents by forcing all 5-year-olds in Michigan to be subject to state's compulsory attendance laws, whether or not those parents believe their children are ready to start kindergarten. Also, the state's already estimated this will produce an additional annual tax burden of over $43 million, a tax burden Michiganders cannot afford. The bill's neither fiscally wise nor respectful of the rights of parents and their students. It grows government control over education and removes parental choice. Therefore, we oppose it. It's the prayer of the team at Mission that you would make the best choice for Michigan families, parents, and children. And Michigan requests that you vote no against this bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Okay, next up, Dr. Cheryl Kennedy from MDE, wishing to speak supporting the bill. And again, thank you. I appreciate everyone being conscious of the time. So far, so good.
Hello, and thank you, Representative Colazar and committee. I'm going to ask if I could have the slide back up, the top 10 strategic education plan. That would be very helpful. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to testify today. My name is Dr. Cheryl Kennedy. I'm the legislative liaison for the Michigan Department of Education. I'm honored to speak to you today about potential mandatory kindergarten enrollment in Michigan. Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan, which you see here, approved by the State Board of Education on August 2020, shares 8 necessary goals to improve educational opportunities for Michigan's 1.4 million public school students. As you can see in Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan, the developmental upstream goals addressing expansion of early childhood education and the improvement of early literacy, goals 1 and 2, and health, safety, and wellness, goal 3, help drive all the other downstream goals, which includes secondary school program expansion, graduation rates, and post-secondary credentials. I'm here to discuss goals 1 and 2 specifically through the role of mandatory kindergarten enrollment as we continue to potentially expand preschool opportunities for all Michigan children. Currently, Michigan public schools are required to offer some degree of kindergarten for students who reach 5 by September 1st of the enrollment year, or parents may sign a waiver to allow a 4-year-old student who turns 5 between September 2nd and December 1st to attend as well. However, mandatory school attendance is not required in Michigan until age 6 or first grade. Over the last several years, through continued investment in Michigan's high-quality preschool program for 4-year-olds, the Great Start Readiness Program, we've been able to expand preschool program opportunities for more students and for more time. In the governor's last Day of the State address, the last budget signed by the governor, she's clearly prioritized universal access to preschool for all Michigan children who've reached the age of 4. The Michigan Department of Education agrees with the governor that it's time to shift the culture of school attendance in Michigan to one where school begins earlier, and the transition to kindergarten for 5-year-olds is mandatory. Currently, 17 states and the District of Columbia require that students attend some form of kindergarten. Given that Michigan's GSRP preschool has been tied for the top ranked in the country for the last half decade, we should continue that leadership role once 4-year-olds turn 5 and enter kindergarten. This bill does not require that 5-year-old children attend a public school, but rather that they are involved in some form of schooling, public, private, parochial, or homeschool. Only those students who would be attending their public school district would be required to register for kindergarten at the time required in this bill. Homeschooled and private schooled 5-year-olds would not be required to register with either their local district, but would be expected to receive schooling at home at their private or parochial or homeschool setting.
And that is 3 minutes. One quick question for you. Kindergarten is considered non-essential. Could Senate Bill 285 be read in any way that modifies the MDE's interpretation of kindergarten as non-essential for shared time purposes?
So the bill is written. It does not say it's a full day of kindergarten. It just says kindergarten. So a child could be attending a half-day kindergarten. They could be attending, homeschool kindergarten, however that mom or dad decide that homeschool kindergarten should look like. This is just, and shared time falls into that as well. There's a ton of flexibility in this bill. And again, I just want to reiterate that this bill does not, and answering the question that was brought up before about how many students do we know that don't go to kindergarten? The answer is we don't know, Rep. Green, because we do not count homeschool kids. We don't count kids, so we don't have a number.
I guess my question, no, it's when kids go to public school in first grade, how many didn't go to kindergarten beforehand that went into first grade? I would think you would have those numbers.
And we don't know that because they might be homeschooled. You see what I'm saying? We don't have a way to count children who are being educated at home in kindergarten, and that's not something we keep track of when they come to first grade.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Oh.
Really fast follow-up. I just want to make sure I understood your answer to the last question. Shared time would not be impacted by
Shared time will not be impacted. Homeschool will not be impacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have Krista Fons from Clarkston Schools wishing to speak, supporting the bill with one concern. And again, because we are so limited, please keep your comments brief.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time this morning. My name is Krista Fons. I'm an Air Force veteran, a CPA, certified secondary teacher, and also hold a K-12 administrator certificate. My current role in Clarkston Community Schools is Executive Director of Special Programs. The bulk of my responsibilities lie with share time. SB 285 is widely regarded by all educators as good for kids. We know that early education access is key to long-term academic success. We balance this support with our reliance on shared time funding to provide meaningful experiences for Clarkston students, to include instructional coaches, social workers. We believe the lowest counselor to student ratio in the state at 240 to 1, our aim being 15 in a kindergarten class, and we feel we're within reach. Currently, we have just under 400 kindergarten students we instruct at non-public locations. That represents 20 teachers and equates to 300 full-time equivalents, or almost $2.9 million. We're very encouraged to hear that the MDE is saying there will be no effect on shared time. I do want to quote the Pupil Accounting Manual. According to Section 166B3 of the State School Aid Act, a non-essential course in grades 1 through 8 is a course other than mathematics, science, social studies, and English language arts required by the district for grade progression. Further, the PAM states in Section 5E2 that kindergarten is non-essential. So my question or hope for the group is that can kindergarten remain non-essential if it is required by the state? If so, can that language, kindergarten is non-essential, be added to SB 285? These terms, if these two terms, required and non-essential, cannot live together in a legislative interpretation, just as the doctor from MDE said, I would propose, based on listening to the FAQ session with the bill's author, the question was asked, could half-day kindergarten be local control? Perhaps then it is spelled out that the provision that identifying 50% of kindergarten being non-essential. So there is some that can be claimed still in shared time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, next up, our last testimony is from, and I hope I say the names right, Tim Schmidt and Jesse Levesque. Okay, and again, we'll give you 3 minutes, and that'll be our last testimony, and then we will.
Thank you, Representative Kolazar, and thank you, members of the committee, for allowing us to speak today. Representing the Michigan Association of Christian Schools, the one concern that we would have on this, as we read the bill, it appears, and I want to be, I'm willing to be corrected on this, that if a parent should choose not to enroll their child in the local intermediate school district public school, they are to, according to the bill, notify that school district in writing that their child will not be attending that school. Is that correct?
I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
Do the parents need to notify the local school district that their kindergarten age child will not be attending that school?
Dr. Kennedy.
The waiver needs to be only entered if that parent intends to enroll that child in public school. It does not apply to parochial, private, or homeschooling.
So there's an opt-out option for parents who have their child in a Christian school, homeschool. This is not government overreach.
Correct. This is strictly addressing public schools.
Okay, thank you so much. The concern that we would have is we believe that parents make the best decisions for their children, which is why they enroll their child in a Christian school or choose to homeschool. And when the senator was here and she had made the statement that this is in no way a registration for homeschoolers or Christian schools, that very emphatic about it. And we've known in the past that there have been instances where the government has said that this would never happen, only to show that it has happened. So our concerns would be that there are safeguards for those parents who, through their convictions and their conscience, would be allowed to keep their child in a non-public school, Christian school, or homeschool environment.
Yeah, I'm an administrator of a Christian school, part of the Michigan Association of Christian Schools. I'm a father of a 4-year-old daughter, soon to be 5, so this directly impacts her. My daughter in our school, she's going to be reading by the end of kindergarten. And I look at the state's track record, and I see the statistics are staggering. Kids not proficient in reading even by 4th, 5th, 6th grade. And so, like he said, I know we're short on time, so I'll cut my spiel short. The parents' rights to choose is imperative, and so we would strongly oppose any need for us to check in with the public school systems. Even having to get a waiver and an exemption, I believe to be unnecessary and something we would oppose and would not intend to comply with my daughter or even with our school, because I believe this is an overreach and a step down that slippery slope of towards a school registry, which we are definitely opposed to.
Okay, thank you. And just for clarification, the bill does not require you to get a waiver from a public school. That is it on time. I'm going to read these in. Not wishing to speak, supporting the bill, Jennifer Smith, Michigan Association of School Boards. Not wishing to speak, opposing the bill, Molly Masick from Mackinac Center for Public Policy. Not wishing to speak, opposing the bill as written, would support with an amendment, Professor William Wagner. Not wishing to speak, opposing the bill as written, would support with an amendment, Catherine Bassard, representing herself. Representative Shannon makes a motion to report Senate Bill 285 with recommendation. Will the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion to report, Chair Colazar.
Yes.
Representatives Churches.
Yes.
Shannon.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Glanville.
Yes.
Conlon.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Wagella.
Yes.
Song. Green.
No.
Markkinen.
No.
Paquette. Wenzel.
No.
Johnson.
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 9 yeas, 4 nays, 0 pass. Senate Bill 285 supportive recommendation.
Thank you. Vice Chair Green moves to excuse absent members. Without objection, so ordered. I want to thank everybody for everything today. Also, thank you to all members, policy staff, clerks, and stakeholders who have engaged with this committee. I wish the next chair nothing but the best. And with that, there being no further business before the committee will stand adjourned.